Your Excellency Morgans Ligetoft, the President of the United Nations General Assembly for the 70th session, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and pleasure to join you on this historic day as we convene to adopt the new development agenda. Let me commend the member states and every other stakeholder, all of whom have patiently engaged in the negotiations, whose culmination is this visionary, transformative, and ambitious blueprint. Let me also thank you for the confidence that you have shown in Kenya in bestowing on my country the honor of co-chairing the intergovernmental process that led to this outcome. I believe the adoption of these goals will galvanize global action towards ending poverty in all its forms. 15 years ago, at the Millennium Summit, we adopted the Millennium Declaration, and through this declaration, we adopted the Millennium Development Goals, through which we undertook to exert all efforts to reduce extreme poverty by the year 2015. Since then, we have made significant progress in poverty reduction. Many of the MDGs have been achieved. Between 1990 and 2002, for example, there were overall incomes rose and sharp falls in the numbers of people living in extreme poverty, as well as child mortality rates. Life expectancy rose from 63 to nearly 65. An additional 8% of the developing world's people received access to water, while an additional 15% acquired access to improved sanitation services. Similarly, over 100 million people have been uplifted from slums. We know that today more girls than ever before are going to schools at all levels. More women are joining the ranks of formal employment. I also note that the spread of HIV/AIDS is being reversed, with new infections falling by 40% between the year 2000 and 2013. Important milestones have also been reached in the fight against malaria and tuberculosis. Similarly, efforts to manage the global environment have been accelerated, with significant reductions reported in the reduction of ozone-depleting substances. However, we must acknowledge that progress has been uneven across the world and across the goals. There remain still huge disparities between and within countries. Within countries, rural poverty remains unacceptably high, while urban poverty is extensive and underreported by traditional indicators. In some parts of sub-Saharan Africa, child and maternal mortality are rising. Even where progress has taken place, consumption patterns and their impact on the environment are unsustainable. The world continues to be under threat from the negative impacts of global warming and climate change. Millions of people worldwide still lack access to quality education as well as health care. Mr. President, in Kenya, we have made tremendous progress over the last decade. For instance, since the adoption of free universal primary education in the year 2003, gross enrollment rates have risen from 88% to 116%. Even more significantly, we have now achieved gender parity in the primary school cycle, while the transition from primary to secondary and tertiary levels have greatly improved. My government has also introduced several measures to promote gender mainstreaming. For example, by legislation and government policy, 1/3 of all public appointments and legislative positions are reserved for women. The government has also set aside such funds as the Women Enterprise Fund, as well as the Uwezo Fund, to advance the cause of women entrepreneurship. My country also reserved at least 30% of all procurements in the public sector for women, youth, and people living with disability. We continue to promote appropriate skills to increase women and youth employment. In the health sector, we have eliminated user charges for maternity services in our public health facilities. My government is also providing free antiretroviral drugs and voluntary counseling and testing services, all part of a sustained national campaign against sexually transmitted diseases. That mix of preventative and curative measures has ensured important gains in the health of our nation. The rate of immunization for children under a year old, for instance, has risen to 85%, while HIV and AIDS infections have fallen to 6%. Mr. President, the lessons learned from the implementation of the Millennium Development Goals shows that much can be achieved when the world finds focus around a shared and common goals. The new agenda we adopt today is an ambitious plan for collective action to transform the fate of humanity by lifting all people out of poverty while remaining in harmony with our planet. Many of the goals of the post-2015 development agenda strongly resonate with Kenya's development aspirations as articulated in our development blueprint we call Vision 2030. We are convinced that under this agenda, a world free of poverty and hunger is achievable within the next 15 years. We also believe that a world in which development is in harmony with nature is also possible. The vision on environment is therefore correctly rooted in the agenda as a prerequisite of moving our societies towards sustainable development. The goals of this agenda are extremely ambitious. They require, therefore, an equally ambitious means of implementation. Without adequate resources for diverse places and institutions, the agenda that we adopt today might never be realized. Of course, we recognize that the primary responsibility for development in our countries shall first and foremost lie with us. However, resources from our development partners will also be critical. I urge them to substantially increase the resources that are available to developing countries as ODA. In addition, we should all address issues that have in the past impeded developing countries from channeling adequate resources to the needs of the poor. I believe that addressing debt sustainability and trade reforms will go a long way in addressing these needs. After all, trade is at least as good a means of ending poverty as aid. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my statement, I reiterate once again that the success of today's agenda in the years ahead will require new ideas and courage. Effective mobilization of resources in the context of a global partnership will be critical in this effort. I am therefore happy to announce that towards this end, Kenya will host the second high-level meeting on the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation in November of 2016, and I am happy to welcome all of you to this important meeting, and I believe this will provide us with an important forum to exchange ideas on how to move this agenda forward. Finally, I join the global community in adopting this important agenda, and I thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank the President of the Republic of Kenya for his statement.